Let's jump to 7. And the Lord said to Satan, hence, where comest thou? Then Satan answered to the Lord and said, from going up and fro in the earth, from walking up and down in it. Then the Lord said to Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feared God and shunned evil? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, that Job feared God for aught? Hast not thou made an hedge about him and about his house and about all he had on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance and increase in the land. Okay? So you can see here, this man was covered. The Satan knows the man was covered. Okay? The man was covered. And remember, there was no man like that one. Okay? There is no man like that one on earth. Okay? So, men, I want you to raise up. Okay? Let your antennae be up, because we need men. Okay? In the word it's written, it only needed one man. Okay? If there could be only one man in Sodom and Gomorrah to stand for the others, they could be saved. They could be saved. Okay? So the men ought to, in this world, the men ought to, they ought to lose their dominion. Okay? And they care not. Okay? When you listen to men, they tell you, I must drink so that I can go and face my wife. Okay? I must take something. Okay? I must go at night. Let me sit here for hours so that I can just go and sleep. Don't you see the men have lost their dominion? Okay? The men have gone astray. The men are getting lost. And the women are being empowered. Okay? So are we going the Lord's way, or we are going the world's way? Ask yourself. Are we going the Lord's way, or we are going the world's way? Okay? Remember, in order for first sin to enter into this realm, okay, the Satan looked forward and saw and passed through the woman, isn't it? So men, we need to stand up. We need to take the gap. Okay? Have you ever seen anywhere written men being empowered? Empowering men. Anyone who has seen empowering men? You ought to stand on your feet. You need to empower yourselves. Okay? Read the word. Read the word. What does it say? What are your responsibilities? This was Job. This was Job. Only Job, a righteous man. He's saying a righteous man, not a righteous family. But his prayer covered the entire. Satan is saying here the head has covered everything. The entire family. All his children, all his wealth. Okay? Do you know what Job did? Do you know what Job did so that he could be covered? Do you know? Let's read from the book of Job 29. Job 29. When you reach there, say amen. The story of Job. Job 29. So the past days of Job, so that he could be covered by the age of God, and how he acquired his wealth. Okay? We as men, what we ought to do. Okay? So we read from 29 from 4. As I was in the prime of the days, when the friendship of God was over my tent, when the mighty was yet with me, and my children were around me, When my steps were back in butter, and the rocks poured out for me streams of oil. When I went out of the gate of the city, when I took my seat in the square, the young men saw me and hid themselves. Okay? And the old men rose and stood. The prince stopped talking, but put their hands on their mouth. The voice of the nobles was hushed, and their tongues stuck to their palates. For when the ear heard it, called me blessed, and when they saw, they gave witness of me, because I delivered the poor who cried for help, okay? And the orphan who had no helper. The blessings of the one ready to perish came upon me, and I made the widow's heart sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My judge was just like a robe and a turban. I was eyes to the blind and feet to the lame. I was the father to the needy, and investigated the case which I did not know. I broke the jaws of the wicked, and snatched the prey from his teeth. Then I thought I shall die in my nest, and I shall multiply my days as the sand. Okay? My root is spread out to the water, and dew lies all night on my branch. My glory is ever new with me, and my bow is renewed in my hand. To me they listened and waited and kept silent for my counsel. After my words, they did not speak again, and my speech dropped on them. They waited for me as for the rain, and opened their mouth as for the springing rain. I smiled on them when they did not believe, and the light of my face they did not cast down. Okay? So you can see what Job did. What Job did to be blessed, to have the glory. Imagine, he was not even a king. He was just an ordinary man of God. He was just an ordinary man of God. Okay? But whenever he came out, the princess knew someone is coming. Okay? The princess knew someone was coming. Can you see? The princess knew a person was coming. Okay? Look at what he did. He was the father to the fatherless. How many fathers are here to the fatherless? How many? How many are there? How many are the husband to the widows? What does it mean to be a husband to the widows? You must comfort the widows. You have to play the role that is there. Okay? How many have got the courage to have the dominion over the earth? What is the dominion over the earth? How can you pray the heaven come down, and yet you yourself with your surrounding, all people are crying, you are crying with them about the world? We ought to change and renew our mind, we as men. Men ought to stand up on their feet. Okay? They need to know their roles in the society. Yeah? It is not only self-love. Men ought to carry, because in the book of Job 5:7, when you open in your books, Job 5:7, it is written, you man is born unto trouble as the sparks fly upwards. So this trouble were born on them. But when you go back and read from the book of John 16:33, what does it say? John 16:33. This thing I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but of good cheer, and I have overcome the world. I have overcome the world. Okay? So we men, where are we? Where are we? Look at the men of today. They are still in the Genesis chapter 6, where they say, go and replenish the ark. Okay? And where are we? We are in the New Testament. What does Jesus say? You shall become fishers of. So ask yourself, where are you? Where are you? We should be fishing men, not going to multiply there. Okay? We are in the New Testament. We need to stand on our feet. The Lord needs to open our inner understanding. It is written that He shall renew your mind. Ask any man, do you know Christ? This is our obligation. Do you know Christ? Do you know He came and died for our sin? A man will tell you, I'm suffering. I'm suffering a lot. I don't have school fees. I don't have anything. I don't have any money. I don't have any job. But Job is here. Which school did he go to? Have you been written? He was very powerful. Even he was called a king. He was called a king. You can read here 25. Job 29:25. I chose the way for them and sat as chief and dwelt as a king among the troops, as one who comforted the mourners. Was he a king? But he was treated like a king, Job himself. Okay? Because his ways was upright and straight. Okay? In all this book, we are not told to follow Job. Okay? We are not told to follow David. We are only told to follow one man. And that one man is Jesus Christ. Okay? That one man is Jesus Christ. Okay? He is the way, the truth, and the life. If you follow Christ, and He is the way, and He is the truth, which truth are you seeking again? Men, I ought to talk to you. Which truth are you, where are you searching the truth from? Okay? Man, the prayer of this Job, the prayer of Job covered his wife, even his children, okay, and the property. Why am I saying this? There was a woman who came and was saying her testimony. He said something that touched my life. He was saying that whenever I want to start something, whenever I want to start anything, any job, whenever I want to take any step, I ask my husband to pray for me, and it never fails. So men, are you getting the obligation that you have? Are you getting the obligation that you have? I want you to look at the story of Job. You are the one they say they want men. Even when Jesus was feeding people, He counted men. Because men, you are the Godhead. You are losing the kingship. You are losing it. We are losing the kingship. We ought to stand on our feet. The devil is very happy when he sees us stumbling. When he sees us very drunk, a very drunkard man. That's a soul. That's a lost soul. But we as the chosen ones, we as the man of God, we as the Christians, what is our responsibility? We ought to stand and pray for the men. we ought to stand. We as Women's Day, we are the one who brought these men, okay? We ought to stand and pray for them to get back the dominion. Because in me, I believe that when we empower the boy child and knows his role, we will save so many lives. Because it's the obligation of man to look over the family and over the children. But look out for men for today. I'm looking for a rich lady. Shortcut. They need shortcuts. So I have 3 points. I have here 3 points to write about a man, godly man. The first one, men were called to lead. The first one, we can write that men were called to lead. Men were called to lead. That is having dominion over the earth, over everything. Okay? So, not only to lead, but to lead with humanity. To lead with humanity. So, we can confirm here from the book of Micah chapter 6. Micah chapter 6. 8. Micah chapter 6 verse 8. There say amen. So we can see here is that we should walk with God with love. Okay? Micah chapter 6 verse 8. If you reach there, can you read for me? Micah chapter 6 verse 8. Yes, the man is being told. The man is being told to walk what is good and what does the Lord inquire of you. Okay? So it is written so well, but just do justice. You know justice? To love, kindness, and to walk humbly with God. To do what? To walk with God. Okay? To walk with God. So you ought not to do things on your way. Okay? The moment you realize that you came from the dust, you humble yourself. You humble yourself. You stop praising yourself, because this earth, God uses it as a footstool. Okay? So remember that when you walk, you're walking and stepping on what? On the dust. So imagine you're that dust, and the Spirit is stepping on you. Can you confirm that? The Spirit is stepping on you. So how can you glorify yourself? You can't. We are here for the Lord. Everyone is here for the Lord, isn't it? So you ought to tell your men. Everyone has got a man around, okay? You ought to tell your son and your daughter. You are called to lead with humanity. Okay? To serve justice and to walk the God's way. Okay? Nowadays, you see, they just say the age is just a number. Ask them, where is it written age is just a number? We are not here to assume. The word is written that we shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from God's mouth. Okay? We don't assume. Okay? Every word counts. Every word. So if you are here telling people, nowadays people compare sin with a sin. A sin with a sin. Does it make sense in the Lord's way? I'd rather go than this one. A sin is a sin, isn't it? Let's not stop lying to ourselves. Let's be realistic. Very true. So if you walk the God's way, remember there was a person called Enoch. Okay? He walked with God for 300 years. Okay? What happened to him? God took him. Isn't it? He was a man of God. Job walked with God. He was righteous. He was upright. Okay? That's why Jesus is coming and say, my path is straight. Okay? And narrow. My path is straight. And he said, I am the way. There is no any other way. You will hear people telling you, even without Jesus you can make it. Then gain the whole world and lose the soul. It is asked here, why? Why gain the whole world and lose your soul? Is it not written for men? Why are we losing our soul? We can start 2 or 3 here. We are men. We stand. We empower all these children who are here, all the women who are here. They are here because through them, that's why we are here. Okay? That's why we are here. We need to take everything into account, but we need to stand on our feet. Leadership, we can see here, start with submission to God. Leadership starts with submission to God. Okay? And you must know your God. You must also know your God. That's not Mungu wako. You must know your God. So submission to God. That is the first step you should take of leadership. Know there is someone who is above you. Okay? You are a leader, but there is someone who is above you. Okay? There is no one on earth. It is only God. Okay? So, walk with God humbly in God's way. So, the next one we are going to talk about, the next point is we are called to love sacrificially. Men are called to love sacrificially. Men are called to love sacrificially. So we can confirm from the book of Ephesians chapter 5, 25. Ephesians chapter 5. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25. Husband, love your wife, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her. Okay? So we have to have love for your family. You have an obligation. We as men, godly men, we have to sacrifice for our families. Okay? So, to add on the point, we should have true love and selflessness and sacrificial. Selflessness and sacrificial. Okay? To add on that, God men need to prioritize their families over personal desires. Okay? Over personal desire. Because in the spiritual realm, when a man is counted, he is counted with his family. Okay? The two shall be joined to be one, isn't it? So you have the obligation to carry your family with you everywhere you go. When you pray, when you do everything, you need to add your family. Okay? So the last point to add there is that we should have Christ-like love. We should have Christ-like love. Okay? Which means laying down pride and ego. Laying down pride and ego. No one is greater than the other. Okay? No one is greater than the other. And comfort. Laying down pride, ego, and comfort. Okay? So we go to the last point. The godly men are called to serve. The godly men are called to serve courageously. Men of God are called to serve courageously. Okay? You must have courage. You must have courage. Okay? It took courage. It took courage for David to beat Goliath. It took courage and faith. Okay? It took faith and courage. Both of them. People saw that Goliath was a giant. No one could kill him. That is how the world saw. Okay? And David knew that there is no one above God. You come to me with sword, but I come to you with in the name of the Lord. And he had courage. Okay? And we were told that this fight is not physical. This world is this fight is spiritual. Okay? So David conquered Goliath spiritually. Okay? He went in the name of the Lord. And the way of the Lord is a spiritual life. Okay? Because it is written, you cannot satisfy your flesh and please God, isn't it? It can't. We choose one. Okay? We ought to walk in the spiritual way. Okay? So this one will confirm from the book of Corinthians chapter 16. Corinthians chapter 16. Corinthians chapter 16 from verse 13 and 14. First Corinthians chapter 15. It is written, let all that you do be done in love. Now I urge you, brethren, you know the household of Stephen. You know the household of Stephen, that they were the fruit of Achia, and that they have devoted themselves for ministry to the saints. Okay? So you must serve the Lord ujitoe with all your strength, with everything, in love. Okay? Lazima useme na upendo. Lazima ukuwe na upendo. You must have the love. Because you are doing it for who? For Christ. You're not doing it for yourself. Okay? You're not doing it for your pastor. You're not doing it for the leader. You're doing it for Christ. Okay? Serve with courage. Serve with faith. And be strong in love and in everything. Okay? And remember the strength, and to add on that point, the strength in a godly man isn't physical. Isn't physical. The strength in a godly man isn't physical. It is spiritual, emotional, and moral. It is spiritual, emotional, and moral. Okay? Keep that one in point. So, in physical, people say that Shetani aliniambia. So you know how to listen to the voice of Satan, isn't it? Do you know to listen to the voice of God? Ask yourself. If you go to the spiritual way, do you know to listen to the voice of God? Learn to listen to the voice of God. Learn to listen to the voice of God. Okay? Stop listening to the voice of the evil one. Okay? So men, we ought to stand on our feet. We ought to love. We ought to live, to love, and to serve. Okay? So we lead by humility. Okay? We lead by submitting to God. Okay? Then we must love our families, our wives. We can see the true love. Okay? The true love. Then we need to live a spiritual life. Men of God ought to live a spiritual life. Because when you live the worldly manner, you can see so many discouragement. Okay? So to put on point is that a service to man is a service to God. Okay? A service to man is a service to God. So what does that mean? A service to man is a service to God. An iron sharpens an iron. Okay? We men need to start waking those people who are lying. Those men who are asleep. Okay? We start waking up them. Okay? Even Jesus, when he died, he went to the 12 people who died long time ago. And he rose with them. Isn't it? He rose with them. So, remember those people who are waiting for Christ in the Old Testament. They used to long to see Christ, okay? And we have the obligation because as we have Christ. Si tumefika kama hivi watakuja. Ni kweli? Jesus is with us. He's the truth, the way, and the truth. So ask yourself, do you know Christ? And how is your light? How are you using your light? Are you putting it under the table? How are you using it? We were told to follow Christ. Follow everything that he did. Okay? With compassion. Till you become one. And you will see the wonder. You will do mighty things than I do. Okay? When he went, he said, I will leave you. I will leave you a who? A helper. Okay? So which helper are you looking for? You as men. Which helper are you looking for? Which other helper are you looking for? So I want to conclude by saying that men of God are not perfect. Men of God are not perfect. Okay? They must have the will or the willingly. They must be willingly to follow Christ. They must be willingly to follow Christ. Okay? To live with love, serve with strength, and grow in faith. Okay? The faith was given everyone with a measure, but it needs to grow. Ask yourself, if Christ comes now, have I grown my faith? Or it is the one that I was born with. Okay? Are you growing in faith? Are you willing to follow Christ? The world needs more godly men who will raise up, not with pride, but with a purpose. Okay? So, we need men to rise up, godly men, not just men. Okay? There is the men of the world and there are godly men. Okay? The godly men, they ought to rise. Okay? With love, showing love to one another. See, it is written. Those are the keys. If you find for any other key, you can't get any other key. Wanaume, tusaidiane. Si kweli? We ought to stand on our feet. We ought to stand on our feet. We speak to men. Okay? Tell God to give us, to renew our mind. Men are lost. Are you seeing men in churches today? There are very few. Men are getting lost. We must hold one another's hand. In each and every place that you go, tell your men to be a godly man. And you must have courage. Okay? It took courage for David to kill what? Goliath. Okay? It took courage. Even let's look at the story of Steve. He's leaving the world, going to heaven. Okay? But ask yourself, why does the world being written about men so much? Men, you are sleeping on your dominion. Okay? You are sleeping on your dominion. Okay? The story of Job is a story never to be forgotten. He was a Russian man. Let's look for that Russian. Let's stand on our feet and copy the story of Job. What he did. He was the father of the fatherless. His words. Okay? His words. How many people have you helped? How many rent have you paid for people? Ask yourself. You've seen so many old people. You can see here, even young men they were running away because he ought to tell them the truth. Because he was a straight man. And he could not tolerate evil. As we tolerate evil. People talk to you and tell you, just do this and this. If it is not ungodly, just tell them the truth. Because he was an upright man. Not to think about it. That is what I am told. Never let people mind it. Tell them the truth. I can't. That is what I've learned. And we need to raise up godly men. Isn't it? So I want us to stand on our feet, to pray about it to God so that we can raise men that will change this generation. Men who will change generations. Men who want to stand and walk in the Lord's way. Okay? Because when you walk in the spiritual realm, when Jesus is coming, okay? He is talking about the spiritual world. There is not marriage or given to marriage. That is the spiritual world. People are waiting for Jesus to come. Is Jesus coming to greet you? I'm sorry. Oleweni, mnayemngoja Yesu Kristo akuja wazungumze nani. Jesus is coming for judgment. When he finds you, where will you be? Men, stand on the feet. Women, pray for the men. Pray for them. Tell them the truth. And you will be blessed. I want you to tell God to give you the strength and the heart that Job had. The heart that Job had. The strength. He never got out of the way of the Lord. Naked I came, naked I shall return. Stop touching a person. Stop touching a person. Naked I came, naked I go. I'm a man. You are here for a mission. Let's serve as the godly men.
bring the worship to